More free and equal segment tonight. Hey, white women, you want to end racism? Well, kill your babies. That's the advice from a feminist magazine that says, and I quote here, white women should be encouraged to abort their white children and to use their freed up time and resources to assist women of color who have no other choice but to raise their children. If this isn't racism, I don't know what is. With me now, Democratic strategist, former Georgia State Representative LaDon Jones. LaDon, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me again, Liz.
LaDon, I know I say this every week, but I so appreciate your willingness to talk about topics that are not easy to talk about. And this, I think, it should be universally disgusting to anyone who reads this, the idea that the way to fight white supremacy is to abort white women's babies, to abort more white babies. I mean, LaDon, isn't that racism itself?
Yes, and Liz, I know many times you invite me to come on and bring a perspective from the other side of the aisle. Well, let me tell you, that is a ridiculous article. The entire article about wanting white women to abort their babies was based on a false premise that all abortions were created by white people. It's just a ridiculous option. And yes, I agree, it is absolutely racist.
It's so racist. It's so disgusting. And the thing is, I see an element of racism, an undercurrent of racism within the abortion agenda of the Democratic Party and of Planned Parenthood. And that's what I want to talk about with you tonight. And I want to ask you, I mean, Planned Parenthood was founded by Margaret Sanger. We're familiar with her name. She was the founder. She was a racist. I mean, that's pretty universally acknowledged, too. She supported eugenics. She once called black people human weeds. Does the undercurrent of racism that exists within the abortion culture, I mean, does that bother you as someone who you and I have talked about before supports Planned Parenthood?
You know, I've actually had to research that issue because when I first heard about Margaret Sanger and the entire theory behind her, it was kind of disturbing. It made me want to know more about it. But then, even after I did my research, I realized the women that I've met that have chosen to abort their babies for whatever was going on in their lives, it did not matter what the premise was. What they knew is in that moment, they had to make a very difficult decision. And so whether it was in racist underpinnings, I mean, the entire country has racist underpinnings. That doesn't bother me at all.
Right. But I'm saying her goal when she founded Planned Parenthood was to eliminate black people from America. I mean, she was a eugenicist. She thought that there was one race that was superior to another. That was the goal of her founding of Planned Parenthood. Now today, Planned Parenthood aborts 4 times more black babies than white babies. In New York City, there are more black babies aborted every year than there are born. So it seems to me that her racist undertones, the racist reason that she found Planned Parenthood is actually coming to fruition in modern times through Planned Parenthood abortion clinics.
You know, if the women who were walking in and deciding to abort their children were coming in based on some race principle, then maybe. But frankly, they don't care about that. What they care about is that they can't feed or clothe their children. And those underpinnings truly don't make a difference in what the needs are.
But doesn't that make them victims of racism, though? That's what I'm saying. Of course, the women walking in aren't purposely aborting their children because they're racist about their own children or their own bodies. Doesn't that make them victims of Planned Parenthood's racist plan, like Margaret Sanger founded her clinics on to eliminate black people?
Absolutely not. And unfortunately, for a lot of these women, if they did not make this very difficult decision, they would be victims of America. They would be victims of a Republican system that says, we're not going to give you health care. We're not going to help you get a job. We're not going to help you if you need housing because, well, you're too poor, too bad, so sad. That's when they would be a victim for 18 years. And what Republicans are trying to do is make it so, and I truly do believe that there are some racist underpinnings in the Republican Party that they know if we saddle people with children in debt that they can't afford, they will never be able to promote themselves and succeed. The whole pull yourself up.
I don't know what you're talking about. I mean, nowhere in the world, except for this country, can anyone from any socioeconomic status bring themselves up from poverty to become the president of the United States like Barack Obama did. I mean, we have opportunities that are both in the private sector and government sponsored that allow anybody to be who they want to be. We don't leave people behind in this nation, but what we do have is 79% of Planned Parenthood clinics are in minority neighborhoods, black neighborhoods, Hispanic neighborhoods, targeting minority women. I mean, there are 4 times more black babies, like I said, aborted than white babies, yet the percentage, the population of black people compared to white people in our country, I mean, those disproportionate statistics are heartbreaking. It really is the fruition of Margaret Sanger's plan for Planned Parenthood.
I disagree. The reason why those clinics are where they are is because they provide services for people who do not have the income to afford them on their own. And because they provide those services, they're needed the most in those communities because those folks will have the most difficult time rebounding if they were to have a child at a time in their life that they are not able to.
The only things that these clinics provide are abortions. They don't provide other health services. We know Planned Parenthood provides, yes it is, they provide less than 2% of breast exams across the whole country, less than 2% of pap smears, less than 1% of cancer screenings, 0% of mammograms, yet they commit 34.9% of abortions. I mean, you call a Planned Parenthood clinic, people have done this. They don't provide services, prenatal services for pregnant women. They say, we only provide abortions. If you want prenatal care, Google it. If you want a mammogram, you have to go somewhere else.
Well, then that kind of undermines what you're saying then, Liz, because that means that the people are calling and they're providing a service that is clearly needed. So if they were not providing the service, what would the people then do?
No, it means that they're shoving abortion in the face of these women in minority neighborhoods to fulfill this racist plan that Margaret Sanger had. And as much as Democrats talk about the racial tension and the racial divide in our country, and I agree with you, it exists, just like sexism exists, it shocks me that they don't see this obvious plan, that they don't see that minority women are being oppressed, that they're victims of racism at the hands of these abortion businesses.
For you to even imply that these folks are not intelligent enough to know what's in the best needs of their lives at that time, you imply it both by saying that they're being fooled by Planned Parenthood, and it's implied by the fact that people in our state houses and in Congress can determine what is best for them in their lives. If I can share something with you, Liz, last week my husband and I attended a seminar so that we can learn about adoption. We've always wanted to adopt a child in our home. $25,000 is what it costs to bring a child who otherwise may be giving up or going to the system into our home. And we want to ask women to not make a decision to abort a baby, but rather let's put them up for adoption and then they sit in the system. That is wrong. Now, when Republicans start talking about paying for the cost of adoptions completely for people like us who really want it so that those children can have families, then we can have an abortion discussion.
Listen, I agree with you 100%. I agree with you 100%. The number of couples that are waiting to adopt babies exceeds the number of children that are in foster care. It's absolutely ridiculous system. It needs to be reformed. You're 100% right that pro-life advocacy isn't just during pregnancy when the risk of the child being aborted is at hand. It's afterward too. You're 100% right about that. That's a topic for a different day. But that doesn't change the fact that Planned Parenthood has racist undertones and Democrats don't seem to care about it.